Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dennis Stockman, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Jeff Benning. We warmly welcome the family of Lance Corporal Sydney Roy Cooper, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by a family of Sydney Roy Cooper. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through till the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations for over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Lance Corporal Sidney Cooper, who was killed in action fighting in France during the First World War. Sidney Roy Cooper was born in 1895 and was one of 10 children of John and Margaret Cooper of Kingston in South Australia. He attended school in the Kingston area and worked as a farmer in the district. Following school, Cooper paraded with the 22nd Light Horse Regiment, a militia unit that operated in the area, and travelled to Adelaide, where he enlisted in the AIF as soon as he turned 21 in April 1916. Cooper spent the following 2 months training in Adelaide before embarking for England with a reinforcement group for the 10th Battalion. After further training at Perham Downs on the Salisbury Plain, he was transferred to the 48th Battalion and embarked for France in October. He was then taken on strength when the battalion was resting behind the lines near Amiens. He was fortunate enough not to participate in any further fighting during the Battle of the Somme, but endured the relentless winter that followed as the Australians occupied the line between the villages of Fleur and Gerdecourt. It was around this time Sidney Cooper was recognised for his leadership skills, developed no doubt during his time in the militia, and was promoted to Lance Corporal. After the bitter winter of 1916 and 1917, the Germans abandoned the positions they held so tenaciously during the Battle of the Somme and withdrew to a new and more formidable position known as the Hindenburg Line, some 40 kilometres away. Cooper participated in the push that followed, as British and Australian troops followed the German withdrawal. By April, the Australian 4th Division stood before the Hindenburg Line at the village of Bullecourt, and the 48th Battalion would be one of the units to attack it. This they did unsuccessfully on the 11th of April 1917, in fighting that resulted in over 3,000 Australian casualties. Among them was Sidney Cooper, who was last seen firing a Lewis gun in the captured German trenches before being severely wounded by a German shell. According to eyewitnesses, the machine gun and shell fire was very heavy on the spot where Cooper lay, and the stretcher bearers were unable to bring him in. He remained missing until a court of inquiry held in December 1917 determined that he had been killed in the fighting on the 11th of April. He was 22 years old. Sidney Cooper is commemorated on the Australian National Memorial at Villers-Bretonneux, alongside 10,500 Australians killed in France who have no known grave. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Corporal Sidney Cooper, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they'll be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and good evening.